James, you're a bad man, you are.
It maybe has been known, but in what context?
A few weeks ago, you got me brewing, and I used the FermZilla for the first time. That has piqued my interest, and I've got a few questions I'd like to throw your way.
All right, well, see what we can do to answer them, Martin.
So James, it's not the first time I've used a pressure fermenter when I've used that FermZilla a few weeks ago in the video we did doing the small batch versus large batch.
Yeah, which was great fun, right?
Yeah, really good.
Fun.
I used to have a Fermentasaurus, and I think like 8 years ago, something like that, which has predated all of these things which are on the market at the moment. And I've also got Chubby at home that I use for wine kits as well. But the Fermentasaurus doesn't have the kind of features and add-ons that you can add to the FermZilla.
Yeah.
So I've got a few questions about how you buy it, what it comes with, what the add-ons are, and also other ways that we haven't thought about using it that we should be thinking about.
Yeah, I'm sure we can look at that. Now, the Fermentasaurus was like one of the OG PET pressure-rated fermenters, right?
Yeah.
Without those kind of products, we wouldn't have the things that we have today, like the FermZilla and many of the other PET fermenters. You mentioned the Chubby, you know, that's a really good one. I've got one of those that I use again for wine kits as well. It's perfect for it. The FermZilla has really been super popular over the last couple of years, and it's no wonder why, because it opens up the door to so much that you can do at home. It kind of speeds up those lager productions, that low oxygen environment for those super juicy boys. But I've only ever brewed with them here at work. I don't have one at home, so I'm in a similar position to you where I'm thinking about investing in one for home. But there are some things that I've been working on which I think can help you with your kind of desire to get one set up at home as well.
Yeah, so my fermenters I currently use at home, I've got GF30, which is hooked up to a Glycol chiller.
Yep.
And I've got a number of plastic buckets, which I'm still happy to use for certain different things. Wine kits, sugar washes, you know, occasionally a beer kit will go into there. So they're all great fermenters, but it's that pressure bit which is kind of piquing my interest.
Yes, and again, you're basically the same as every other customer that's thinking about this at the moment or has done over the little while. At home, I've got 2 Grainfather GF30s with a Glycol chiller, and I love them, absolutely love them. I've been using them for a long time. I love the temperature control, I love the access to the Grainfather app, I love all the features that they've got, but they're not pressure rated.
Yeah.
And I've been like, oh, which way do I go in terms of which pressure fermenter? I'm with you that the FermZilla feels like the right thing to do. But let's dive into your questions and see what we can do, and probably along the way answer some bits and pieces that we've both been thinking about. So I have got us a FermZilla here, Mike. It's one of the ones we use here for kind of the bits and pieces that we're brewing. It's probably the one you used actually, but if you buy one out of the box, I've got the one that's classed as with the pressure pack, right. Because if you haven't got one, that's the one to buy, because then you get the gubbins to be able to do pressure fermentation.
Well, that's the bit that interests me.
Exactly. So when you buy that out of the box, you get all of the necessary adapters. So you get the standard lid, you get the 2 carbonation caps, you get the blow tie spunding valve as well, so that you can put that on the gas post. You know, the standard collar, lid, floating dip tube with the floating ball and mesh basket, so that you're drawing liquid from the very top of your fermentation, not the bottom. The collection vessel with the carbonation caps and the butterfly valve to open and close the collection vessel. All right, that is your standard way to get into pressure fermentation using the FermZilla. We've got quite a lot of videos covering this. In fact, I'll put some links up here. There's some playlists that you can dive into, like our Kegland products playlist. We've featured it loads on the channel, but when you buy it out of the box with the pressure pack, that's what you get. All right.
Okay, so when I used it, we had a few more accessories on here. The hot bong, I think, was one on there.
We did, yes. And quite handily, I have a hot bong right here.
Okay.
All right.
I've also got the spunding valve here as well.
Oh, so. All right, it's an accessory showdown. My accessory is bigger than yours.
Well, yeah, it is.
So yeah, the hop bong is an add-on that you can buy. Comes basically as we've got it here. So you've got the additional butterfly valve, the plastic tube itself, and the slightly different lid assembly, right, which accommodates the tri-clamp valve, the tri-clamp port, so that you can connect the hop bong up and the butterfly valve.
Okay.
And has holes in it for the PRV and for the carbonation cap.
So you basically take these bits off here, fit them onto there, and then use the collar off the cap here.
Yep. Okay. And you're good to go. Okay. All right. So let's just cut for a moment. We'll change it. We'll set it up so it's like that, and then we can talk a bit further. So this is how you used the FermZilla, Martin.
I didn't have this on. What's this?
I'll come back to that in a minute. All right. Another little handy new thing that we've had in.
Oh, okay.
But this is kind of how we used it. All right. So we had the hop bong on top here. Got the butterfly valve, which means that you can shut off the FermZilla, dose your hops in, purge it with carbon dioxide.
PRV on top, yeah.
Cap on, open it up, hops go in, oxygen or low oxygen, right? I'd never say anything's completely oxygen free, but this minimizes oxygen contact. So the thing that you've just noticed is the new like lid ring that Kegland have done for the FermZilla, which is a real upgrade from the standard plastic collar. So it replaces that plastic collar, so it's threaded, which means that you use it to tighten up the lid seal. But because it's got these big handles on, it does make it far easier to tighten up, and importantly to undo as well. Now, depending on what configuration you're using it in, there's a few other little accessories or little features of this handle, like it's got little holes underneath that are the same size as the carbonation cap, like the kind of nut bit on the carbonation cap.
So you can use like a spanner, basically.
Yeah, you can use it as a spanner to tighten them up. It's a bit tricky when you're using the hop bong lid because of the way the posts go out. So you can't really use it for both of them because you have to sort of feed it into there. But yeah, it just makes it a bit easier. And the one thing I love about it, which can be a little bit of a problem when you've got the FermZilla sealed up, is you can use it as leverage to pop the main body of the lid assembly out. All right.
Okay.
So yeah, it just makes it a bit easier. All right. So yeah, that's how we used it in the video. Now, we were fermenting in the firm chamber that we've got here, the Kegland wrapped firm chamber, which is great, right?
Yeah.
It's really good, really, really good. But if you've already got like a heating and cooling solution at home that isn't a fridge, or you can't fit this in a fridge, you're in the world of glycol, that kind of stuff. We've got a few other accessories that we've covered in a previous video that I think would be really worth looking at for you.
Is this your ultimate FermZilla video that you did? Yeah, that's kind of also, I've been watching that and thinking, there's got to be a way to kind of combine that with what I got without having to take my kegs out of my larder fridge and use that again for a fermenter, but use my glycol chiller that I've got sitting there.
Yeah, so I think we've got some options there, which I'd love to go into now.
Okay, I recognise this from your ultimate FermZilla video, but there's a lot going on here. Talk me through it, James.
Yeah, so I won't dive into it in too much detail because we've covered that in the ultimate FermZilla video, but we have the hop bong obviously at the top. We've used the pre-drilled lid. Now you can drill the lid yourself if you've already got a hop bong. You can drill the lid on the standard like flat lid, but then that allows you to fit the Thermowell from Kegland for the FermZillas, which comes with a duo-tight bulkhead, and also fit the temp twister, which is the chiller coil, again with two duo-tight bulkheads, so that you can fit that and still remain kind of pressure sealed as well. All right, that means we've then got the option for adding cooling via a glycol chiller onto the FermZilla. We also include in that bundle the lovely insulated jacket, which I'm a massive fan of.
Yeah.
This thing is like super well insulated and does a fantastic job. But yeah, that gives you the option for adding a temperature probe directly into the FermZilla and having cooling via a glycol chiller. You know, you could use the Kegland Ice Master glycol chillers with these, no problem whatsoever. That would take care of your cooling situation, and you could wire up the Kegland heat wrap as well to work with that. But there's a lot of people out there like you and I that have got Grainfather glycol chillers.
Yeah, I don't want to buy a second glycol chiller.
No, I didn't think you would, right? So what I'd like to do is explore how we can use this setup, and I've done a bit of testing, how we can use this setup to get the connectivity between our Grainfather ecosystem, Glycol chiller, app, all that kind of stuff, and the FermZilla. Right, we need a few little accessories to go alongside this, and then we'll talk about how we're going to connect this up to the Grainfather. All right. So I've dropped the FermZilla off the table for this, just so we can talk about the bits and pieces we've got on the table now. So you know that Grainfather do a kit called the GCA kit, right? The Glycol chiller adapter kit.
Yep.
Yeah. They do two versions of it. They do one that comes with a chiller coil, and then they do one that comes without a chiller coil. That kit ultimately allows you to connect any style of fermenter to the Grainfather Glycol chiller. At the heart of it is this little jobby, which is the control box.
And that fits in with the Grainfather ecosystem.
Yes,
their software.
Yeah, because control of your fermenter sits away from the Glycol chiller within the Grainfather ecosystem. It's not done on the chiller itself. You have a dedicated controller that basically dictates heat or cooling. You have a control cable that goes from this to the Glycol chiller to send the signals. Then you have a couple of other accessories that comes in that. Now we've got on the table here the kit that doesn't include the chiller coil.
Yeah, because we're using a temp twister.
We are, and the reason for that is that I don't know, there may well be a way to do this, but I don't know whether there's a way to use the Grainfather's proprietary chiller coil on the FermZilla. I don't think you can, but that's why Grainfather do two different options. So if you've got a jacketed tank, you can use the cooling jacket that sits on your tank, or if you've got something like we've got here that's got a chiller coil already, or for example like our stainless steel 30-litre fermenter that's got the chiller coil in the lid, you can adapt it that way.
Yeah, we know this chiller coil is designed to go with this lid, so it makes sense to use that.
Absolutely. You get a temperature probe, okay, which plugs into the chiller, into the control box as well. That temperature probe fits into the thermal well on the FermZilla like a glove.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when that's down inside, you're getting a really good reading of the temperature inside your fermenter. Like I said, you get the control cable. You get two of the Glycol hoses as well, and those hoses don't have the quick disconnects attached to them that you get on the Grainfather GF30.
So it's just hose and insulation.
Just hose and insulation. And you also get a heat pad as well. I'm going to come on to that in a bit of detail shortly, all right? Right, so the first thing I want to talk about is how we connect up the Glycol lines to the temp twister, all right? I've opted to use a little set of adapters that I've fashioned up. So we've got some John Guest screw-in adapters, okay? And they're 3/8 ones. Now the reason I've gone for 3/8 is that push fit fits perfectly onto the temp twister,
okay,
all right, and creates the seal we need. On the other side of those, I've screwed in using some PTFE tape to get the seal completely tight, liquid tight. But I've used the Brew Tools quick disconnects, and the reason I've gone for these is that they offer a dry break. Okay, so we're not going to have Glycol spilling out everywhere every time we take the hoses on and off. On the hose side of it, we've got the other side of the quick disconnects, and then just a Jubilee clip. You could use, like hose clips, but Jubilee clips just to hold them in place, just to make sure they don't come off and we don't end up again with Glycol everywhere.
I'm really glad you've done that, because that is one of the things I love about my GF30, not having to worry about Glycol going everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Once you disconnect the hoses, the Glycol's held in both sides, both in the fermenter and in the lines. So those just literally push fit on. We can then clip in the hoses really easily. So these literally just clip straight in.
Okay.
Really easy to push fit in. What I would say is you make sure you have the cold, so the coldest Glycol line going in is the one that's feeding the coil. Okay?
So from the bottom of the coil.
Yeah, well, it's just feeding the coil, because that's where you've got the most surface area to cool the wort inside, and then the warm Glycol that's coming out goes straight up the middle and out through this side. All right, and then like I said, that is now all ready to just connect the hoses up to the Glycol chiller. All right.
Okay.
We've talked about the temperature probe that just needs to slide down inside the thermal well.
Okay, that's easy enough.
So effectively what we've now got is cooling sorted for the FermZilla.
And an accurate temperature reading.
And an accurate temperature reading indeed. Now you could if you wanted to, not use the thermal well, you could tape it to the side, a bit of insulation over it, that kind of thing. I know people do that, but it's far better getting a reading from inside the fermenter if you can. Just a word on these stainless steel pipes. Now, they are protruding quite a lot. If you've got a pipe cutter, you could just cut them down to an appropriate length so that they're not kind of splaying out quite as much. Equally, if you're adept in it, you could look at using a pipe bender to bend the stainless steel tubes on the temp twister, but you've got to know what you're doing, because the risk of kink in the pipe, causing a pinch in it, splitting it, any of those kind of things, that's a risk. Personally, I don't think it's a major problem having it on the diagonal like that.
I guess they've made them longer like this because there's different sizes of FermZilla.
Yeah, exactly.
So James, that all makes sense so far. You've covered off all the cooling. What about heating?
Right, now this is where we really need to talk, okay? So the GCA kit comes with this very handy heat pad, okay? Comes with some Velcro attachments for the side so that you can Velcro it onto your fermenter of choice.
Perfect to go on the cone of a conical.
Yeah, absolutely. Stainless steel, it's going to transfer heat really well. Plastic bucket fermenter, it's going to do the job. You can't put this in direct contact with a FermZilla.
Yeah, we know these things don't like heat.
They don't. That's why Kegland have the low watt density 30 watt heat wrap that they sell, that's specifically designed to work with these. We would not advocate sticking this directly to your fermenter.
So could you just cut that off and wire on the heat belt?
The Kegland one?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I've tried.
Okay.
I got as far as having both of them spliced together before I then realised that the Grainfather puts out DC.
Right.
And the Kegland heat wrap needs AC.
Right, that's over my head.
Two different electrics.
Okay.
All right. Like still and sparkling water. Basically, you can't easily get them to work together. I'd love to know if there's anybody out there that has been able to do that, but in my experience, you can't. And I'm not adept in any of that kind of stuff.
And we want to keep this as simple as possible.
We do. That being said, that doesn't mean we can't use this as our heat source.
Right.
I'm going to come back to my friend here, okay? And my friend is this jacket. I've used this on so many fermentations using the FermZilla, and it is super well insulated. It's like foil lined on the inside, so it reflects heat back in. It's got a thick layer of insulation in it. It is really, really good and really efficient. So what I've done, Martin, and I'm really pleased that this worked, I set one of these up yesterday because I knew we were filming this today. I set one of these up yesterday and I filled it with about 25 litres of water at like work temperature, so around about 20 degrees. It's the beginning of January here. We're in the middle of this really cold snap. It was 4 degrees this morning when we got into work, if that, I think, maybe 1 degree overnight. I set it up, and our warehouse is
it's a warehouse.
It is cold, yeah. So I set this up overnight with the jacket, and then I had the heat mat underneath on the floor.
What, just sitting?
Just sitting underneath, heating the void.
Right.
Okay, so heating the airspace underneath the FermZilla. It held this at 20 degrees all night long and didn't miss a beat.
Even in those 0 temperatures, which it probably was in here.
Yeah, in those super cold temperatures, this stayed at 20 degrees. Given that fermentation is exothermic and it generates a lot of heat whilst that yeast is doing its wonderful job, I've got no worries at all that this would be able to hold your fermentation temperature for you at standard kind of temperatures, whether that's lager temperatures or whether that's at standard ale temperatures. Where it might become a little bit more tricky is if you're trying to do ferment with like thermotolerant yeasts where you're at like 30-ish degrees, or if you're trying to do temperature ramps during really, really cold spells, which that can be a problem on any fermenter. I even have that on my GF30s at home.
To be honest, that really impresses me, because if you think to the GF30, without any insulation on that, that will do like 10 degrees above ambient.
Yep.
So that would have been at 10 degrees last night in this warehouse.
Yep.
Whereas this held 20 with that jacket.
Yep.
That's really impressive.
It is. So what I would suggest is if you're thinking about having this as your setup, but you want to do those temperature ramps during cold snaps, or you want to ferment with those thermotolerant yeast strains, is adding in the Kegland heat wrap. They're relatively cheap, you know, to have one of those as a secondary heat source that you can literally just switch on when you need to, well, or just switch on when you need to ramp up the temperature, and then let the Grainfather heat mat just maintain it for you once you're where you need to be. I think that would be a perfectly acceptable solution. Yeah, it's 2 heat sources, but in some cases, you know, you need to do that anyway with fermentations when you're going up to those bigger temperatures.
The other thing, go back to what brewers always used to do. Brew seasonally.
Yeah.
Brew the right beers at the right time of the year.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I think from an efficiency perspective, having that inside the jacket, it's not as good as having direct contact, but it does a good job and it does maintain your temperatures for you. And I'm sure that during warmer months, you'd be able to be doing temperature ramps using just that, no problem at all.
But you've also proved that that jacket really does an outstanding job. So in the hotter months, when you want to chill it down, you should do the same type of thing.
Absolutely. Now, I'm sure there are clever people out there that would be able to come up with a different heating solution. Now, I know that there are DC-powered heat sort of mats that you can buy that are bigger than that, still 30 watt, but a bigger space, which would be lower density and give you sort of a larger warming area. I think they're for camper vans, you know, for heating like the water tanks in camper vans. You know, that might be an option. I'm not an expert in that. I strongly suggest you do a bit of research if you're considering it, but I'm sure there are people out there that would have an alternative solution. But I was really impressed with it. Yeah. Really, really impressed.
I am, and the fact that you've done this with a very simple, off-the-shelf, what we've got available in the building, to appease what I was looking for.
What do you reckon, Martin? Has this helped you see how you could integrate FermZilla into your setup at home?
I think definitely having seen the Glycol connections that you've come up with, the proof of what you've experimented with using the heat mat and not having to stick it to it, this has really piqued my interest in thinking, I could see myself integrating this into my Grainfather ecosystem.
I think that's the thing here, you know, if you're just getting into Glycol, you know, and you want FermZillas, you know, you might not opt to buy one of the Grainfather Glycol chillers, you might choose the Kegland one, right? Because there might be an easier way of doing this. But there's lots of people out there that have already got the Grainfather Glycol chillers, whether that's the GC4 or the GC2. They've got other fermenters like the Grainfather fermenters, but they want to add in a pressure-rated fermenter without breaking the bank. For me, this is a really good option. You know, we've run the kind of cost of this. Now, the Ultimate FermZilla with the little adapters that we've used for the quick disconnects and the new lid ring, it's around about 300 quid, but that gets you everything you need to hook things up. Then the GCA kit without the chiller coil is around about £150. Now all these prices are live and current now. Things change throughout the year.
Yeah, you know. This is 2026, so you could be watching this in a year's time.
Yeah, or 10 years time, who knows, right? But these items at the moment, you could get all of this for less than £500, which I know isn't a small amount of money, but it gets you into pressure fermentation in the Grainfather ecosystem, using the equipment that you've likely already got.
Invested in.
Yeah, and it maintains that lovely connectivity that you've got with the Grainfather app that you can monitor and like make adjustments to your fermentation as you go. You know, you can even integrate the wrap hill into the Grainfather app as well, so you can monitor your fermentation. Other wireless hydrometers work in there as well, so if you've already got some of them, you could still use them. It just gives people that have already got that lovely Grainfather setup the ability to add a FermZilla in a way that I think works really, really well. So have you got any other questions about what we've set up with this today, Martin?
No, James, I think you've covered everything off, but I'm pretty sure the viewers of this video might have some, so they could pop them down in the comments below and we'll do our best to answer those. Yeah, and if we don't know the answer, we'll see what we can do to source the answer for you. Now, if you've made it to the end of this video and you're not already, do subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, give this video a thumbs up, tell your friends and family about it. If they're home brewers, let them know what we're doing. All of that really does help us out. If you're not already as well, do make sure that you sign up to our newsletter. There's a link in the description below where you can stay up to date with offers, news, new products, everything we're doing here at the Malt Miller to kind of keep you moving along in your home brewing journey. And I think, as ever, have a great brew, or actually in your case, have a great fermentation. Thanks, James.